Countries which produce the most cheese. Or in other words, which country is the cheesiest? This reminds me of the top 1000 cheese videos that's going around. It's like literally a 3-hour video of different cheese. One day I'm going to literally watch every single frame because this is a masterpiece, honestly. I'm gonna have to assume that the US is going to win this battle since we literally have cheese caves. Government mandated cheese caves, by the way. They keep cheese hundreds of feet below the ground in converted limestone mines in Missouri. It's just 1.2 billion pounds of government-owned cheese. Now, we're starting this video in the 80s, so that's why we can see the Soviet Union in second place, but they're about to disappear after 1991. That's going to become Russia, and I believe it should be the USA just far and away. In 1993, France was second, and then Germany was third. And it looks like Germany's actually going to pass up France. I know the Europeans love their cheese. Probably not as much as us, though. I feel like cheese is more considered a delicacy in Europe. Like, they have fancy cheeses that taste good. Meanwhile, we just have whatever. We're just going to throw everything on cheese. By 2002, we're producing 4 million tons of cheese. Germany's also gotten into second place with their cheesiness. France is in third, but they're kind of dropping. Here goes Italy, that's doing pretty good by 2011. Then it goes Netherlands, Poland, Russia's starting to get back into their cheese game. Argentina falls out of the top 10, and 2019, whoa, was that us dropping, or was Germany really investing in the cheese? It seems like Germany just really accelerated their cheese production at 3 million tons. They're almost halfway there. Look at Egypt go with their cheese. Wait, where are they making cheese at? Just storing that in the Sahara Desert? No, in the pyramids, I think. This is the true reason why the Soviet Union collapsed. Just didn't have enough cheese. Top 20 companies where employees do not stay. Out of energy, health, engineering, retail, tech, and financial, which are the worst companies for employees? And this probably says a lot too. I mean, this is just the raw data. So we're starting off with Alphabet, about 3.7 years, which isn't a long time, but it's better than a lot of these other companies. There's PayPal, Healthcare, MasterCard, Nvidia, Netflix only 3.1, Goldman Sachs, which is kind of different than all these other ones. Finally, we're getting into less than 3 years, TGX, S&P, Next Era Energy, Salesforce. A lot of these are tech companies. ServiceNow, AMD, Tesla. Here we go. Here's a big one. Meta, or basically Facebook, only 1.8 years on average. They're not even staying 2 years. Finally, number 2 is Amazon, and number 1 is Apple. Medium tenure is 1.7 years at Apple. That is insane. Does this also include Apple stores though? Like, a lot of those people are young. I could see a lot of people leaving the Apple store. Is that counted? I've already heard about the bad conditions that Amazon has for their workers. I have a feeling a lot of this data is skewed though because of the pandemic, and well, after the pandemic, so many tech companies had to let people go. So I'd like to see this updated another 5 years. Maybe there would be a lot less tech companies. All the things America pretty much bought. Starting off with the first and arguably the most important, the Louisiana Purchase. We did that in 1803 for literally like nickels, 15 million. Now it's worth over 400 million. Wait, it's only worth, I feel like, oh, that's adjusted for inflation. I was gonna say, like, the US would charge trillions and trillions of dollars if they wanted to sell the Louisiana Purchase to somebody else. It'd probably be a number closer to Google. Like, they would never sell this. Like, 400 million is a lot, but it does go to show, like, it's not that insane. Like, they really did buy this for nothing back in 1803. There are movies that make more than what we bought all this territory for. We got that with a huge discount. Then there was the Florida Purchase right after that in 1819. Got that for 5 million from the Spanish, which now would be about 121 million. That's also not a huge number, but compare the massiveness of the Louisiana territory to just Florida. Like, definitely you could fit more than 4 Floridas in the Louisiana Purchase. And again, this was a lot of beach real estate, so the founding fathers, they were thinking about that. We also got the Mexican Cession for only 5 million in 1848. They didn't really have a choice. I mean, we kind of took them and paid them for that. Like, this is a little bit of a different scenario than these other two. Crazy that just this piece of Arizona and New Mexico costed 10 million. Meanwhile, all this costed only 5. Meanwhile, we got all of California from that. Then finally, there was the Alaska Purchase from the Russian Empire. Again, Russia probably regrets selling that. Actually, a lot of these places probably regret selling this, unless you're Mexico. Again, they didn't have a choice. Countries with libertarian heads of state. There's literally just one, the new president of Argentina right here. Part of that reason is because there's only 25 countries that have established libertarian parties. Should mention, this is a president who is officially a member of a country's established libertarian party. Those are key words there. What's gonna happen next? The elevation of America with only lines. It's pretty known that in the heartland of the US, it is relatively flat, but as you can see, there are the Rockies, and the further out west you get, it gets a lot more wavy. In fact, all the way up through Cascadia, you can really see the waves. Alaska is literally just a giant mountain if you think about it. You have the Appalachian Range here, and Canada has something similar. A lot of Mexico is just really elevated. Meanwhile, the trend actually continues all the way to South America as well, where the west side has a lot more elevation than the east. You can kind of see the pattern go all the way up the continents right here. That must have been weird for the Europeans to have been exploring, obviously first the eastern coastline, then to wrap around, start exploring this way, and they just start seeing way more mountains, like mountains all the way up. It must have kind of been a little mind-blowing. Every flight path around the world, as you can see, Europe seems to really dominate all other areas, which at first I thought it was a little shocking since Europe has way better trains. Like we here in the US either have to drive or use planes. Like those are the only two options. But then you have to consider the continent's location globally. It's very easy to take like a stop or two here and then continue on your destination. Also, another thing to keep in mind is Europe has like over 700 million people in it, so that is twice as many as the US. The other big blue area here is China, of course. They have over 1 billion people. Technically, India has more population than that, but China is just flying a lot more. China also has high-speed trains as well, though. Crazy to see there's like no dots in North Korea at all. They definitely have some flights, though. Like people go to Pyongyang. I would actually like to figure out how to do that. A lot of this also just points to the economic hubs of the world. Brazil seems to overwhelmingly be dominating the flight trackers here compared to all the other South American countries. Brazil does have the most population, though. There's so much to analyze in this map. Current re-established border controls in the Schengen area. So red is showing non-free internal borders. Interestingly, we have the Nordic countries very divided, although I don't think Norway really needs a divide here to Finland. No one's gonna go up there. Denmark has one with Germany. Germany has one with almost every country except for in the lowlands. There's France, which literally has one with every neighbor. Well, I guess excluding Monaco. What about Andorra? Does that count? Nothing between Spain and Portugal. Italy and Slovenia have one, but no Italy and Switzerland, no Italy and Austria. Poor Czechia and Slovakia. The divide continues to grow. The Baltic countries are pretty open, as well as with Poland. Greece doesn't really have to worry about this because they're kind of on an island by themselves. And of course, the black line just refers to the external borders of the Schengen zone. Something to keep in mind, though, as I am reading, not everyone is stopped. You can still pass through. There's a chance you won't get checked. The border guards pick out only some individuals to check them. Life expectancy broken down by state and province. Now, we do not have the highest in the US. Canada is a lot higher, obviously, but it's interesting to see the provinces in Canada that's really bringing up the country as a whole. Obviously, this place is not doing quite as well. Mexico as a whole is not doing that great compared to the rest of the continent, but interesting to see Costa Rica and Panama much bluer than the other Central American countries. Look at that life expectancy out of the US territory of Puerto Rico. There's got to be something about living on a nice island that makes you want to live longer. Then again, that doesn't really like explain all of Canada's. Like it's just really cold, tundra, but they're having a great time. I guess the Canadians, all they need is hockey and syrup and they're good. They're gonna last to at least 84 years old. The longer living states are like California, Washington, Utah, Nebraska, the Northeast. And I already knew it was the Deep South that was really kind of lower on the list. My home state of Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. Get another huge divide between Dominican Republic and Haiti. Literally all of the lowest is coming from Haiti, 61. Meanwhile, the highest is coming out of Canada or even France. Don't forget about France's territory here. I always forget they still have this out here in the Caribbean. Name origins out of the British Isles, or just name patterns in general. So a lot more Celtic influences out of Wales and Cornwall, and of course scattered throughout all of Scotland. The blue represents the Saxon patterns, which again is kind of scattered all throughout, but it's really in England, the south of England. Then completely unsurprisingly, on the east coast here, you have Danish or Norse patterns, obviously due to the Viking invasion like over 1,000 years ago. Pretty easy to forget just how much this island was influenced by surrounding areas, but you can still see it in the names. All the metals we have mined in 2022, and this is 2.8 billion tons of metals. So ores are naturally occurring rocks that contain metals or metal compounds. Meanwhile, metals are the valuable parts of the ore that can be extracted and sold. A lot of it is used for steel making, construction, chemicals, energy, alloy agents, even magnets, electronics, and others. So as for technology and precious metals, there's 1.5 million tons. I find it interesting that a lot of this stuff I haven't heard of, but then again, it's been a while since I've taken chemistry. I do not remember the periodic table. I know lithium is a big one that a lot of people want. 84,000 tons of tungsten, only 26,000 of silver, interesting. Rare earth oxides. Finally, the number one is tin. That was for technology. This is for industrial metals. Number one, aluminum, 69 million tons. Not a whole lot of mercury. Maybe that's a good thing. We don't want that to get in the water. 49,000 of uranium. What's going on with the uranium? Magnesium, zinc, titanium, a lot of lead. Of course, we still got some coppers. This would be really interesting to compare this to like 100 years ago. It'd be completely different. I mean, there'd be some that obviously would still be here. Finally, number 1, it's still iron ore. This makes me want to play Minecraft. Each block is 1,000,000 tons, and we got 2.6 billion tons of iron ore. It's like we're still living in the Iron Age. I wonder how long we're gonna be able to keep this up. How long it takes the largest companies in America to make one employee's average salary. So the giant company of Walmart makes one person's salary every 1.46 seconds. Holy crap. I mean, they do have a lot of employees, but that is a really fast amount. Amazon does it in every 2.29 seconds. Then there's CVS, United Health Group, Apple. Some of this is going to come down to how much they pay each employee. Obviously, Walmart is so high because a lot of their annual employee salaries isn't that high either. So though Apple is like the biggest company in the world, they're still paying on average $55,000 to every employee. There's Chevron, Berkshire Hathaway, Home Depot, Lowe's. There's a lot of places I don't even know. Alphabet every 10 seconds pretty much. This is a crazy way to interpret all this. Then here's how long it takes the largest companies to make all of their employees' annual salaries. It takes this company one single day to make all of their employees' salary. They only have 9,000 people, but still, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac takes Chevron 2 days to make all of their employees' salaries. That's 43,000 people too that work for them. Apple 8.4 days. Now this is a crazy way to phrase it all. Some of these companies it takes more like a month. Disney with 200,000 employees takes 40 days. There's Ups and FedEx. What are they doing the rest of the money? That's what everyone's asking. Fonts that each state uses in their tourism board logos. I reviewed a European version of this map last week. I was a little surprised at what I saw, honestly. Love that Maryland literally includes the Maryland flag in their icon. Then there's my home state, which looks like they just ripped this off from a California pizza kitchen. I honestly can barely see the difference. You know, for Florida being so eccentric, this is such a boring tourism logo. Why not have like one of the letters eating another letter's face off? For Texas to not look more like the Utah tourism logo, I think is a travesty. Again, I like when the logos incorporate something from the actual state flag. Which state is actually winning in this Dakota race? It's kind of tough. Speaking of cheese, now that's clever, Wisconsin. Wait, so both South Carolina and South Dakota went with a cursive, meanwhile the North went with something a little bit more basic. Way to one-up Virginia, West Virginia. I guess New York clearly doesn't think they even have to try at this point. I wonder if there's actually a correlation there. The states that don't really need to try because they already have a bunch of tourism go with something more basic. Meanwhile, the more boring states really got to spice it up. Please come here. We have cursive in our letters. That same philosophy probably is going for Ohio. I feel like the Deep South and specifically my birth state should kind of try to do a little bit more. Gotta have the rainbow with Hawaii. And big thanks to the patrons. Drew, I'm your dad, back with the milk. Look outside. JohnDenver, LuxembourgLover. I can't sleep without Drew's voice. Aaron, Amateur Archaeology, Carmel, Fredrik Tibblin, GoodOldRyah, InquisitorXarius, annoying friend, KirinoIsBestGirl, RyeThePie, sebby, if you hear this, I love you. And why am I doing this?